There was a challenge, I think most of you would know that when this government came in, many of the documents that would assist the government in determining in a very clear way what were its rights and obligations was simply not available. Documents, the government's files could not be found. And we are still struggling with documentation. We have been able, with the help of people here at home and abroad, to pull together many of the critical documents, but there are also important documents that we have not had sight of, that we've heard about, but not had sight of. We must have open, transparent communications between the government and the people. Not just open and transparent, but honest. We must not come and tell you we find gas or we find oil the day before the elections because we want to win the elections. We must not give you false hope. We must not play games on an issue like this. If we find it, we find it. If we don't find it, we don't find it. And if we're doing this collectively, the government cannot be hiding documents and signing contracts behind your back and nobody knows what's happening. There must be an honest exchange and dialogue, because that is the only way the government is going to be able to bring the people along with them. When this started, there were those who were of the mistaken impression that this was a kind of investigative body to see who did what and arrest a few people and so on. Because I would meet people in town and they ask me, well, what's going on? We hear nothing, nobody ain't get arrested yet. And you have to say to them, this is not about arresting people. This is about arresting the oil and gas in the ground and bringing it up so we can do something with it. Just to say that our purpose, you would note there, if I may just mention first, promote an environmentally friendly and socially responsible hydrocarbon development in Grenada. As a first priority, environmentally friendly and socially responsible. In other words, if we can't do it that way, we don't want to do it at all, because it must be sustainable, it must be balanced. But the intent, at the end of the day, is to know the country's hydrocarbon potential. What benefits do we have? Estimate the monetary value and potential societal contributions of developing hydrocarbon resources. Attract credible major or mid-sized companies as investors to come in and explore with us, do exploration activities in Grenada. Prepare, update the legal instruments. Right now we don't have good laws. Update the legal instruments, the Petroleum Act, the model production sharing agreements and concession agreements for enabling the industry. Prepare the local human capital and businesses to support the sector. We must train our people, improve the quality of the human stock so as to prepare them. Set up the institutional framework. Do we need a ministry? Do we need a department? Do we need a unit? How will that happen? If we are going to discover oil and gas, what company, what profit-making company will the government have to set up to ensure that it too can share in the profits, just like Canada has set up Petrocan, or Brazil has set up Petrobras, and so on? How do we ensure that we have that overall picture in place, so that when we move forward, we can move forward in a stable, predictable way, and a responsible way? The task ahead is not a big one. Our task essentially is to see whether we have it, and if we have it, to convert Grenada into an oil-producing nation. That's how big it is. When this started, there were those who were of the mistaken impression that this was a kind of investigative body to see who did what and arrest a few people and so on. Because I would meet people in town and they ask me, well, what's going on? We hear nothing, nobody ain't get arrested yet. And you have to say to them, this is not about arresting people. This is about arresting the oil and gas in the ground and bringing it up so we can do something with it. Yeah? Sisters and brothers, it's a big task. We've thrown up on the screen an organogram just to give you a very quick sense of how developed and complex this can be. At the head of that matrix organogram, you see the technical working group. Below that, you have the lead technical consultant. We must hire a number of experts to help us. Even though we are working as a team, a small team. We are not experts in oil and gas. We know very little about oil and gas. Our business is to get the people who know about oil and gas and get them to work for us to do what needs to be done. So we have a lead consultant. We have a program control manager. That's the person who is going to monitor and evaluate as we go forward. We have deadlines. The cabinet has given us deadlines. They said, look, in the first instance, get this done. Tell us what's going on in 12 months. And if you can't do it in 12 months, come back to us and we'll give you an extension. So, but somebody must monitor among us what our deadlines are, how we go in, whether we're meeting our targets and deadlines, and keep moving forward. We also have to get help in recruiting experts, because I can't just say, well, that person is a hydrocarbon expert or a petroleum engineer, I'm going to hire him. We have to get people who know who are the people who know. And in that way, they help us to select the right people. Legal people, good lawyers, good petroleum lawyers we need. You see legal there. We need people to help us resolve the contracts that we have. We need people to help us develop the legal system and the laws that we have. We need ongoing legal support. We need people to help us to delimit our boundaries. Although we are finished with Trinidad, we've not done that with St. Vincent, we've not done it with Venezuela, and you can't think about it. If you have a piece of land, you can't say you're leasing it out to somebody and you know where your boundaries are. So you must determine where are your boundaries. And although we've done that with Trinidad, we have not yet done it with St. Vincent or Venezuela, and we need to do that as part of this mandate. So boundary delimitation is an important step in the work of the technical working group. You see the technical heading there, and that is for the geological and geophysical works. These are the people who will do the seismic work, all of the scans that will be done. These are the people who, the data management, data protection and licensing. These are the people who would collect all that seismic data, ensure that it is interpreted, see what it means, see what potential it has, and talk to the oil companies who will say, I want to license this block, or I want to rent out this block to explore it, and pay a fee to get the block and begin to explore it. And if there is something there, develop it in partnership with the government. So that is very important. You need commercial people. People whose business it is, whose knowledge it is, whose expertise it is to work with the commercial partners. It is not going to be easy to negotiate with Shell or Exxon or any of these companies. They're big, they're powerful, they're multinationals. They will have things their way. And you need people who can negotiate with them to be able to represent and protect your interest. You can't send novices to negotiate with them. So people who understand the business, who are going to be able to identify commercial partners and work with those partners are going to be important. People who are going to manage the licensing round, because if you have a block that you're going to lease out to somebody, you'll have bidding, right? Shell may say, I want it. Exxon may say, I want it. Repsol may say, I want it. Somebody else may say, I want it. And then, of course, you're going to choose your best partner. So there's a bidding, there's tendering. And the best partner you will work with and lease out that block to somebody in that process. You notice that we have the environmental, again, because we see the critical importance of environmental responsibility. So we must ensure that experts are hired who can undertake the environmental impact assessments, the social impact assessments, and to help to develop mitigation strategies to ensure that we do not shoot ourselves in the foot. And then, of course, you have the issue of capacity building, knowledge and workforce development. In all of this, you want to train your people. I was saying to a team of people that came here to see us the other day, she asked me the question, one of the members of the delegation asked the question, what if you train all these people and at the end of the day you don't have anything? I say, we'll send them to Guyana to work. In other words, if you're trained and you have a skill, even if at the end of the day we find nothing at all, you still have potential for Grenadians to go and work, whether in Trinidad or Guyana or somewhere else, and send some remittances home to help the country develop. So these are that's the situation that we face. Now, I want to say something quickly on the work of the technical working group. The next slide will show you very quickly what these are just some of the things that I want to mention. One is the recruitment of experts. So that so far we've recruited legal experts, we've recruited technical experts, we've recruited a lead consultant who's driving that entire process. And you would see that there is yet some recruitment work to be done. in terms of the commercial side of things, in terms of the reservoir engineers, the petroleum engineers, but so far we have put together, the lead consultant is a company, it's not a person. The lead consultant is a consulting company, and inside of that company they have all kinds of expertise across the spectrum that can work and advise. So we're getting the widest and broadest range of advice in that regard. So recruitment of experts is well underway. Engagement of the seismic companies are well underway. 2 companies in particular have done very extensive seismic work here in Grenada and have the data. By the way, I must let you know that any data that any seismic company gathers in Grenada's waters belong to Grenada. It is the patrimony of the state, and they can't say to us they're not giving us. Furthermore, when they start licensing it out to other people, we are entitled to get a share of those monies. And we are talking now to 2 companies, one that did seismic work in Grenada in 2003, and in fact, in 2012, had already decided that they wanted to enter into a revenue sharing agreement with Grenada. The drafts were exchanged. They told us they were holding $480,000 US on account for us at the time. And then the government changed. Sadly, that company then went into bankruptcy, and so that money was lost. But we are now engaged with the successor company, the ones that have taken over that, and we are in full discussions with them, as well as with another company that has done some studies here in 2019 and are very eager to enter into contracts with us. Those contracts themselves will bring some returns, because once we sign the contracts, we enter into, part of the agreement is a revenue sharing. They will try to recover the money they spend doing the seismic work, but after they collect their monies, whatever profits are made after that is shared between the company and the government of Grenada. And that in turn can help us to finance the work of the technical working group. Our hope is that this government will not have to take monies, or too much monies at least, out of the consolidated fund in order to finance what we are doing. So part of our mandate is to try and help to raise money as best we can in different ways. Reactivation of the Global Petroleum Group, the GPG, is one of our mandates. As I said, not very much happened between 2013 and 2018 as far as the relationship was concerned, but the company did enter into new contracts with the then government, the 2013-2018 government, new contracts where they got new licenses and production sharing agreements. They were under the terms of that agreement, they were supposed to drill what you call an exploration well, and depending on what they found, do an appraisal well. The exploration well will basically tell you if there's any gas or oil found in the area. Yes? The appraisal well will go in to actually find the exact location and give you a sense of quantities and quality. Yes? That company has done an exploration well in 2018, but has not yet done an appraisal well. Indications are from that, from the studies that came out of the exploration well. Indications are that there were gas finds. Yes, that there was at least gas finds. And if there is, then it is now for that company to proceed to do the appraisal well. That is, so negotiations are continuing with the government. That is progressing slowly, I should say. But what the government is expecting, of course, is that the company will progress with the drilling of the appraisal well and conducting whatever studies that they have to conduct in accordance with industry standards. In the meantime, the government is not going to sit and wait and just see what happens with that company. Grenada's territorial area is now divided up into 44 large blocks. Those blocks will be cut up later on and subdivided, but for the moment, Grenada's blocks are divided in Grenada's acreage, maritime acreage, the sea, is cut up into 44 large blocks, and at present, the GPG, the Global Petroleum Group, is holding on to 4 of those blocks, yes, under the contract that was signed. So those 4 blocks they are working on. Our position is, even though they are doing what they are doing, we cannot sit and wait. We have an additional 40 blocks that needs to be explored and developed and exploited. So we are actively laying the foundation for engaging the commercial partners that I spoke about that will ensure that we can make the best use of what we are doing. I want to mention also that we have reactivated our agreement with Trinidad and Tobago, that cooperation agreement that I spoke about earlier. Very, very important. Trinidad is keen to do business with Grenada, always has. From the days of former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, may God rest his soul, there was always a keen interest to assist Grenada in the development of whatever hydrocarbon potential it has. That interest has continued with the present government, and discussions are actively underway with the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries in Trinidad and Tobago. They've agreed under that program to share information with us and to cooperate in as many ways as possible. We have also managed to engage the Commonwealth Secretariat. They were here last week, all week last week, for a scoping mission to see how they can help us, in whatever ways they can help. And that week of meetings and engagement with all of the different ministries and departments was extremely fruitful, and we are looking forward to the report and the work program that they will put forward. In the meantime, the government has developed, the technical working group for the government, of course, has developed its own work program. What are we going to do now that we have laid that foundation and had a very interesting workshop here between February 10th and the 14th. We came together with all of the experts and we met here for 3.5 days to work out a plan of action for the next 18 months. Who is going to do what, when, how? Who's responsible? And the gentleman that we have as the project manager controller is going to ensure that everybody does their job. Our hope is that 18 months from now, we will be able to give the government a very clear sense of what is possible and what it should be doing from there going forward. So the plan that we've developed in terms of the way forward, you would see here one, data availability and quality assessment. Gathering the data from the seismic companies and assessing the quality is going to be important. Reviewing those documents as well as reviewing the contracts that we have with GPG and others. We need to look at the contracts so as to better understand Grenada's rights and Grenada's obligations. If you enter into a contract with someone, you have to know what is your responsibility, they have to know what is their responsibility, and you have to know what your rights are. There was a challenge, I think most of you would know that when this government came in, many of the documents that would assist the government in determining in a very clear way what were its rights and obligations was simply not available. Documents, the government's files could not be found. And we are still struggling with documentation. We have been able, with the help of people here at home and abroad, to pull together many of the critical documents, but there are also important documents that we have not had sight of, that we've heard about, but not had sight of. So reviewing those documents, getting the remaining documents and reviewing them are going to be important, as well as reviewing our laws. It is very important to undertake a very careful study of the existing laws and regulations in the industry. The technical and commercial work is going to be important. Setting up what you see there we call a data library. We must have a place where we store all of Grenada's data. Just like if you have books, you have to store them in a certain place, that when you need them, or any kind of documentation, the issue of storage of important information and documents is critical. How you store it determines how easy it is to retrieve it. And so storage and retrieval is a science in itself. And the management of data is a science in itself. And so we want to ensure that we do it, and we get experts, we train experts to do that. Of course, we want to get the bidding rungs in place, understanding the process of bidding for the blocks. We want to understand the tools, develop and have available the tools, the bidding tools that will be used, and of course, that would mean as well engaging the partners, sometimes marketing, going on road shows to tell people what you have and show people what you have. All of these are steps that will have to be taken as part of the technical and commercial work. We mentioned quickly the human capital and institutional development. I said quite a bit already about the need for the regulator, proper regulator, and the need to train our people, and I've said quite a bit already about the need for us to be environmentally and socially responsible. Developing a plan to engage the communities. The government cannot do this by itself. All of the NGO, the potential communities, stakeholders that will be impacted by what you're doing must be engaged, must be consulted. Their views must be taken into account. And of course, it is very important that once they present their views, then of course the government can take those views into account in determining what the appropriate strategies are going to be. There's a slide there on local content, and that is to say, looking to see how we can develop industries locally that will be able to benefit workers, businesses that will be able to benefit if we got the oil and gas industry going, and how we're going to supply the industry with things locally rather than having to buy everything locally. If, for example, we were to set up an oil rig out there, then you don't want a situation where the food that is going to be used or consumed by the men working, or the men and women working on the rig, would be food that is catered in and brought from the United States. You would want to know that a local catering company will be the one that will provide the food on that ship. So there will be lots of industries, ancillary industries that can develop, lateral industries that can develop, and we would want to explore how that can be and how we can turn that into business and have lateral expansion, so to say, of the economy. We've said much about training and development, our young people. It is going to be very, very vital, not only as over the next 18 months, to have people who can help us who are already trained, but to begin to prepare our people by sending young people on mentorship courses, short-term courses in Trinidad and other countries by friends who are willing to help us, and to ensure that we can begin to develop our workforce in the shorter term, and to encourage scholarships, secondment programs, training and development programs, and so on as we go forward. I want to say a word on the urgent priorities. What are the most important things that we are now faced with as we go forward? Getting the data from Trinidad and Tobago, getting the data from the seismic companies, entering into the revenue sharing agreements that I spoke about, work towards the bid rounds over the next 18 months, identify and recruit suitable people, Grenadians here in Grenada, Grenadians in the diaspora, as well as other people, non-Grenadians. We were thinking, for example, that a place like Trinidad and Tobago, their industry, the oil company, the national gas company, heritage company, ministry officials, all of whom have turned, let's say, 65, are no longer working, were in the industry, knows the industry very well, may just want to come to Grenada and take a stint for 2 years and help us. Yeah, they're not looking for full-time, long-term employment, but they know that they can get home in half an hour, and they wouldn't mind coming and enjoy some of the food and beauty of our island. Yeah? So there are opportunities there, and we need to explore them. Developing the tools we mentioned, and of course, these are some of the key things that we have on stock. We can answer some of the questions in relation to those as we go forward. I want to close with one final slide, and that is a slide that addresses what are the critical success factors. What are we going to have to do? What would we need to do if we are going to succeed? This list is not exhaustive, but I list here 4 things that I would like to close with. One is a united nationwide effort to find out once and for all if we have oil. It must not be the government's task, it must be our task collectively, because of the impact it can have on our country. Long-term impact on our country. It can transform the country. And so we must together take a pledge that we're going to do all that is necessary to ensure that we know exactly what we have and do something about it. The second commitment, the second success factor is to put Grenada first in all that we do. If the members of the technical working group are looking to get money under the table from oil companies, and the oil companies have them in their pocket, they would not be thinking of Grenada first, they would be thinking about themselves first. If ministers of government were to be induced into that situation, they would be thinking about themselves first, not Grenada first. So it's very important that all of us think about this, and in everything that we do and in everything that we say about the oil and gas, don't be driven by personal ambitions, but be driven by a long-term desire to see our country a better country. And I want to say that I want to encourage everyone to commit to that as well. Thirdly, we must have open, transparent communications between the government and the people. Not just open and transparent, but honest. We must not come and tell you we find gas or we find oil the day before the elections because we want to win the elections. We must not give you false hope. We must not play games on an issue like this. If we find it, we find it. If we don't find it, we don't find it. And if we're doing this collectively, the government cannot be hiding documents and signing contracts behind your back and nobody knows what's happening. There must be an honest exchange and dialogue, because that is the only way the government is going to be able to bring the people along with them to transform the country. Open, honest, transparent communication between the government and the people. And the fourth measure, I call it patience. Tempered expectations. It is absolutely important that we all appreciate this is not something that can happen overnight. As much as we all want to see it happen, it takes time. We were asking the experts, between the day that you discover that there's something in the ground and the day that you pull it out of the ground, how much time are we talking about realistically? They said between 4 and 6 years. That is how much work it takes to bring it to the surface. Yeah? So it takes time, because after you do the exploration well, where you say we find something, yes? That is usually done, first they do the scans. They do what is called a two-dimensional scan or a survey. If they see something there, then they do a three-dimensional scan, and they go down and drill to find the location. And then, after that, they drill. Yes? After they drill and they say, yes, we see something there that's commercially viable, then and only then, you start talking about appraisal, knowing what is there in what quantities and quality and so on, and then a development plan to get it out of the ground. So it takes time. And so be patient with your government. Don't be too harsh. Don't be too demanding. If 6 months from now you see nothing happen, don't say, well, boy, all you get in oil and gas and we see nothing at all and so on. Work with us. Let it happen collectively. A single mission by a single country. Remember your slogan. One nation, one journey, one future. If we do it that way, we will be successful. Thank you guys very much.
Hi everyone. Thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.